Adolf Hitler's name is synonymous with evil. Even people who know little about history recognize him as one of humanity's darkest figures. But why? What exactly did he do that earned him such a universal reputation across cultures, nations, and generations? Was it the war he started? The ideology he preached? The genocide he orchestrated? Or was it the scale at which his decisions reshaped the world forever? To understand why Hitler is tagged evil, we have to walk through the facts, not myths, not dramatizations, but the documented decisions and policies that destroyed millions of lives. It's a story of racism, propaganda, violence, and a worldview built on the idea that some people deserved to exist and others did not. And it's a cautionary tale about how charismatic leadership, unchecked power, and hatred can transform a nation and plunge the world into catastrophe. Let's start with the foundation of everything Hitler believed, the idea of racial hierarchy. Hitler was obsessed with the notion that humanity could be divided into superior and inferior races, and that Germans, whom he called Aryans, were destined to rule over others. This wasn't simple prejudice. It wasn't mere nationalism. It was a full ideology built on dehumanization. According to Hitler, entire groups of people were not worthy of rights, dignity, or even existence. This belief alone laid the groundwork for the horrors that followed. At the center of Hitler's hatred were the Jewish people. He blamed them for Germany's economic struggles, political instability, and even for losing World War I. None of these claims were true, but Hitler used them to unite angry, suffering citizens under a common enemy. He portrayed Jews not as individuals, but as a threat to an infection, a conspiracy, a force to be eliminated. This dehumanization was the fuel that powered the atrocities of the Holocaust. But Hitler's rise was not only built on racism. It was built on exploiting fear, anger, and national humiliation. After World War I, Germany was economically devastated and politically unstable. Many people felt lost, ashamed, and desperate for hope. Hitler used powerful speeches, dramatic symbolism, and relentless propaganda to present himself as the man who would restore Germany's greatness. He promised jobs, pride, unity, and revenge against those he claimed had betrayed the nation. He fed on real suffering and redirected it toward imaginary enemies. Once he gained political power, Hitler wasted no time transforming Germany into a dictatorship. He abolished democratic institutions, outlawed opposition parties, censored the press, and used violence to silence anyone who disagreed with him. Journalists, activists, religious leaders, and political rivals were arrested, imprisoned, or executed. Fear became a tool of governance. Conformity became a requirement for survival. At the same time, Hitler built one of the most powerful propaganda machines in history. Newspapers, radio broadcasts, school textbooks, films, and even children's stories were written to promote loyalty to Hitler, hatred of minorities, and unquestioning obedience to the Nazi Party. Propaganda wasn't just about persuasion, it was about shaping reality itself. Under Hitler's regime, truth became whatever the government wanted people to believe. But the darkest part of Hitler's legacy is the Holocaust, the systematic extermination of 6 million Jews along with millions of others including Romani people, disabled individuals, LGBTQ+ people, prisoners of war, political dissidents, and anyone the regime deemed undesirable. This was not spontaneous violence. It was industrialized murder, planned, organized, and executed with chilling efficiency. Entire families were rounded up, transported to concentration camps, stripped of their belongings, and separated from one another. Many were killed immediately upon arrival. Others were forced into hard labor, starvation, and brutal medical experiments. The goal was not imprisonment, it was annihilation. Hitler's policies sought to remove entire groups of people from existence, permanently and completely. The scale of this crime is almost impossible to comprehend. Historians describe the Holocaust not only as one of the greatest tragedies in human history, but as the clearest example of how hatred, when combined with power, can lead to genocide. This alone is enough to explain why Hitler is viewed as evil. But his cruelty extended far beyond the camps. Hitler also plunged the world into World War II, the deadliest conflict humanity has ever seen. His invasions across Europe were driven by the belief that Germany needed more Lebensraum, or living space, and that other nations existed only to be conquered or destroyed. He violated treaties, launched surprise attacks, and encouraged brutal occupation policies that killed millions of civilians. Entire cities were leveled. Families were torn apart. Tens of millions of people lost their lives because of Hitler's ambition for domination. Inside Germany, dissent was not tolerated. Ordinary citizens lived under surveillance, with secret police monitoring conversations, workplaces, and even children's schools. People were encouraged to report neighbors for disloyalty. Those who resisted were imprisoned, tortured, or killed. Women were stripped of many rights and expected to serve a rigid role defined by Nazi ideology. Disabled individuals were murdered under programs disguised as medical treatment. No one was safe unless they aligned with Hitler's vision. Hitler's actions didn't just destroy lives, they destroyed trust, stability, and the fabric of society. His leadership demonstrated how dangerous it is when a nation gives absolute power to one person, especially someone driven by hatred and obsession. Hitler manipulated emotions, controlled information, and weaponized nationalism. He turned legitimate grievances into fuel for violence. And he convinced millions of people to participate, directly or indirectly, in unimaginable cruelty. Even after his death, the consequences of his rule continued to shape the world. Borders changed. Nations collapsed. Millions of refugees were displaced. Survivors carried the trauma for generations. The global community was forced to confront the reality of genocide, leading to the creation of human rights laws, war crime tribunals, and international agreements meant to prevent atrocities from happening again. Hitler's actions changed how humanity thinks about discrimination, racism, nationalism, and the dangers of authoritarian rule. So why is Hitler tagged evil? Because his ideology was built on hatred. Because his policies were designed to eliminate entire groups of people. Because he used lies, fear, and violence to gain and maintain power. Because he plunged the world into a war that caused unimaginable suffering. And because the consequences of his decisions are still felt today. Understanding this history is not about blaming one nation or one people. It is about recognizing the danger of allowing hatred, propaganda, and absolute power to go unchecked. It's about learning from the past so that nothing like it ever happens again. If you found this deep dive informative and want more history breakdowns delivered clearly and respectfully, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. History is filled with lessons, some inspiring, some terrifying, but all worth understanding.